Hello, welcome to a low budget videos production of color. Today I'm going to start with talking about different size of brushes and the bristles of the brushes to use with particularly acrylic paints. And then we're going to discuss organizing and laying out a color palette and then mixing the pigments today. Okay, so first, most of the time in your projects you're going to want to use an acrylic based painting brush. A lot of times there's synthetic fibers such as polyester. In some cases you could get an acrylic paintbrush that does have horse bristle or another animal haired brush. In most cases we'll be using flats such as this one here. There's a slightly round tip to this brush. This is a flat, a true flat at the top. This will be good for kind of pushing the paint towards the edge of a pencil line or a tape line to keep the flatness of the brush consistent with the edge quality of what you're trying to paint up against. And then over here we have some round tip. Actually, that's a flat. Here's a round tip brush here, and then over here just some smaller widths. Same size. Down here we have some smaller flats, a very small paintbrush here. You want to use these rounds, a little bit longer haired rounds for things such as painting lines specifically, stuff like that. The flats could be used to just paint flat areas. And then here's a wedge tip brush that has a point on it. If you can see here, a point at the top that will help you get into corners of things, and also the flat across the top if you need to get up against pencil lines or other edges. Okay, so I think that takes care of that for right now. What we're going to do now is transition over to setting up a organized paint palette. Set these aside. Okay, a couple things I want to introduce before I forget. This is a Golden brand gel medium. Sometimes I might refer to it as a matte medium. It does say matte right here. That refers to the finish quality. It's the same as household paints you might find in Lowe's or Home Depot. Other things might read gloss, semi-gloss, and or satin. Satin finish is pretty much the same as a matte. There's that, and then there's also something I did get from Lowe's specifically, and this is a Min-Max polyacrylic clear satin. Again, here's the use of the word satin, same as matte. And what we're going to do with these is basically use them to suspend the pigment in the medium. It works as almost like a paint glue and allows the paint to hold up as far as not drying too quickly, and it will make it much easier to spread and also mix. If you want to try at some point to mix paints together and then try to mix those paints together, and with the addition of the matte medium, you'll see the consistency difference. We're trying to achieve a consistency that's almost about, it's kind of yogurty, almost kind of ketchupy. Alright. So you may choose to sort of arrange your palette however you kind of see fit as we go through this. This is the way that I tend to do it. And you will see why here momentarily. So I'm going to put a little splotch of paint here, and for our purposes in class, we will mix no more usually than about a quarter-sized amount. Any more than that in class time tends to be a little bit of a waste of the product. So I'm setting out the primary paints, primary colors here: blue, red, and yellow. Excellent. Alright. Careful with that because it now has red paint on the lid. Okay. Once we have our blue, red, and yellow primaries lined up against the top edge of our paint palette, we can take a palette knife. I tend to use one. This is about an 1.5 to 2-inch long palette knife. You can see it's kind of flared. They make so many different sizes, shaped ends. It's kind of just whatever you feel you want to work with. I'd go for something that has just a little bit of flex to it. That way you can get a nice kind of, mixing motion. Alright, so what we're going to do from here is we're going to mix our secondary colors in a triangular fashion coming down. We're going to mix the red and the blue together, creating a purple here. We're going to create orange here, and then bring the blue and the yellow whole way down, creating green at the tip of our triangle. I need to step aside for 1 second to grab some paper towels, which I forgot. I will be right back. Okay, we're going to start with about, get a nice healthy little splotch of blue paint there. Now, in order to stay organized with our paint, we want to first gather some, it doesn't matter which first, and then before we dip into that red paint, we're going to wipe off the palette knife. If you have some rags laying around, I've used cut up t-shirts. You can buy rags, of course. T-shirts work fine, stuff like that, old socks. Okay, so now that my palette knife has been cleaned off, I'm not going to jeopardize the integrity of the original hue. I'm just going to go ahead and mix this. Try to keep it, go back and forth, and try to keep this pile of paint, try to keep your paint concealed in one location so it's not all over the palette. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I flip over my paint palette to get all the paint off of both sides of the knife. Okay, so what we want to do from here is take a little bit of paint like this, kind of smash around a little bit, enough that you can kind of cover the back of the paint palette. What we're going to do is kind of squint one eye, and from a distance you're going to squint one eye and hold the paint palette slightly above the blue and slightly above the red to try to achieve a middle ground on that purple mixture. You kind of want it to look as purple on the blue as it looks purple on the red. Okay. If you need, clean your palette knife off. I'm just going to tinge more red to this. Okay, so what we want to do here now, to keep ourselves organized and a little bit sort of contained here, we don't want to get overzealous. Instead of picking up this entire swatch of red paint here at the end, I'm going to limit myself and only take about half. Okay? So that way we don't have to keep going back and forth, blue and red, blue and red. So just take a little bit. Whatever your sort of intuition tells you to do with grabbing the paint, just edit yourself slightly and just take about half of what that intuition suggests. I find that's usually okay. Okay, so I'm squinting one eye as purple on the red. I'm going to go just a little bit more. Okay, just to show you that this does take some time. Okay, go ahead and bring that last little bit over there. Okay, so I'm going to limit myself to this being the conclusion of this purple mixture because I don't want to spend too much time just doing one color. Okay, you can kind of scoop that paint up, and there you go. Have a nice dollop of paint. It's nice to kind of scoop it all together, kind of leave it sit in a pile. That way it has less of a tendency to dry out. Okay, holding it there, I think that looks pretty good. That's just a little bit more of an addition of red. I like that much better. Okay, cleaning again. Again, clean the palette knife off. I'm going to go over here, take a little bit of this red, like so. Wipe off the knife. Grab some of this yellow. Trying to do about 50-50 amounts to start with. Might have been a little bit too red. It's okay. Just add some more yellow then. And again, same thing. Just going to keep doing this until we get all of our secondary colors mixed in the palette here. Knife. As orange on the red as it is orange on the yellow. As predicted, I'm going to have to gather a little bit more yellow paint. Okay. Some more yellow. There we go. And use your knife just to kind of keep that maintained in that little pile there. Turn it over, get all that yellow paint off the tip. I'm going to get some paint on the tip of the palette knife, like so. Squinting one eye. One more time with the yellow. Alright, I think that's going to be pretty good. Flip that over. Okay. I like that. Yes.